Okay, let's talk a little bit about this literary analysis essay that you're going to be writing and submitting this week. Um, the good news is it's a break from all the discussion posts. The bad news is it's essentially like doing more discussion posts. But the good news is you get experience in writing a formal literary analysis essay, which is a good skill for college. And it's a good opportunity for you to work more on developing your abilities when it comes to thinking analytically, structuring your thoughts in a way that's communicated well to your readers, and really digging into a topic or an idea. And these are great life skills. So, I mean, you can thank me later, whatever. So I'm assuming you have already read on the content page the literary analysis essay assignment sheet. It's pretty long. I have a little bit of it here pulled up for you, just the beginning. Just so kind of so you know, we're looking for 1,000 to 1,500 words, and I do a word count instead of a page count, really, because I know that every font is, it kind of games out to a different size, and I know that the clever student is very, very good at knowing which fonts take up more space, and very, very good at making massive margins. Here's the thing. Let's imagine I'm going to print out your paper. I'm going to hang it on the wall 12 feet away from me. I'm going to ticky-tack it up there. And I'm going to step way back. I'm going to step way back. And if I can still read your paper from 12 feet back, I'm pretty sure you used a 108 point font, and you probably used Bookman Antique. Well, I can't think of good font name. Some of those fonts are pretty huge, friends. And I have seen many students try and fill a page count requirement simply by going big with font, big with margins. Oh, instead of double spacing, can we do it? Can we do a triple? Could we? Could we? So, I mean, again, those actually are valuable life skills you've just learned there in terms of trying to manipulate yourself through an assignment. But in the case of this class, I'm asking you to do a word count so that no matter how many pages it comes out to be, everyone's still writing roughly the same amount. Please do use an easily readable font, so none of those fancy ye old fashioned cursive looking ones and stuff. So Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman is okay. So kind of Tahoma. I have a soft spot for Tahoma. Anyhow, so we're looking at that kind of page length. Roughly speaking, yeah, we are talking, it's going to be 3 to 5 pages in length, pretty much. And I'm going to show you a couple examples here now. So if you've read the assignment sheet, I do go through and I talk about the fact that you get to choose your own topic for this assignment. And that, in some ways, makes it harder. It's almost easier if the teacher says, here's what you're writing on, because you get to choose anything that we've read so far in the class. To be truly honest, if you were like, but I want to write about something I haven't already written about. I want to write about a story that's in the book, but that you're not requiring us to read, Jocelyn. Okay, fine. Do that. Do that. That's okay. You also may end up choosing 2 works to write about in your paper. And I think for students, if you're really struggling, like, what's my topic going to be for this? If you choose to do sort of a comparison contrast of 2 different stories or poems that we've read in the class, it does make your life a little easier because you have sort of a natural angle to take. You're doing a comparison and contrast. You're looking at the ways that these works have similarities and the ways that they differ from each other. Whereas if you choose just one story to write about, you've got to figure out how to crack into that. It's totally doable, but if you're kind of like, I don't know what to do, I'm going to suggest you go with the idea of choosing 2 things. Could be a poem and a story, whatever, and doing a comparison contrast. So that's a little insider tip for you. But anyhow, so if you've looked over the assignment sheet, you've seen I talk about the thesis. In your thesis, you should take some sort of stance, have a little bit of an opinion. That what are you arguing in this paper? What's the angle? What's the point that the readers are supposed to take away? And you should be really careful to use things like transitions and topic sentences. Of course, definitely bring in textual evidence. And we are looking for your quotations to be integrated into your own writing. So, as with your discussion posts every week, Please do not just plop a quotation in between two sentences you have written. Nay, my friends, nay. What you should do is lead into the quotation, embed quotations into your own sentences. That you can use a little acknowledgement phrase, as Robert Olin Butler writes, da 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 da. But it could just be that it's part of a sentence that you've written and you're just going to use a little phrase or something from the reading. So we're looking for the textual evidence and good analytical thinking, which is the toughest part of the entire assignment, to be honest. So don't just summarize the stories or poems. We've all read them. We know what they're about. You're trying to give us the why. You're trying to look between the cracks. You're trying to figure out what's the bigger impact or meaning of this work. So let me just stop here for a sec, and when next I see you in a little blip of a moment, I'm going to have a student example in front of you. Hold on. Okay, so here's the student example. The ever impressive student X wrote quite a nice paper. This is from about a year ago in this class. And please notice some things like we do have a heading at the top. Student name, instructor name, the class, the date, those kinds of things are fine. Left or right hand, upper corner, I don't care which. It would be important for you to have a title. So here we have Understanding Assimilation and Colonialism Through Literature. Then we have an introductory paragraph here that's kind of general discussion of the concepts that will be then explored more deeply throughout the paper. The last sentence of the introduction is where you want your thesis statement to appear. Okay, so let's just take a look at what she wrote here. It is an impossibility for all humans to have firsthand experience of the difficult topics that plague humankind around the world. While culture, religion, language, and expression vary across the globe, certain human experiences don't. Colonialism and the expectation of assimilation are two human experiences that are shared everywhere, but not by everyone. Assimilation and colonialism are difficult to fully understand if one has not experienced them, and literature can be a critical tool in helping others to understand an experience that they've not lived. It's empathy. Okay, in this way, Robert Olin Butler's Crickets and Chinua Achebe's Dead Man's Path can help to understand the experiences of assimilation and colonialism, respectively. So the final sentence there, we have the thesis statement of this paper. Both works are mentioned by name and author. See? Yeah? And the titles of the stories or the poems have quotation marks around them. So they are not in italics. Shorter works, like what we see in our book, have quotation marks around the titles. It's longer works that have italics for the titles. So quotation marks around the titles, please. And what we know is here that this student is going to be discussing those two stories that are mentioned and discussing them in terms of what we see about assimilation and colonialism specifically. So then in the second paragraph, she goes on to give us a little bit more of definition of her terms. And she goes to Wikipedia, which is, I think, as we all know, we all live with it, let's be honest. I mean, hardly a day goes by when I'm not on Wikipedia. And for the most part, it's extremely valuable. For academic writing, sometimes it's a little questionable because it is an open source where anyone on the planet can go in at any point and dick around with it. You can make edits and changes. You could make me the 46th president of the United States. Wikipedia does catch up with that stuff and it does get fixed, but during that lag time, people are still accessing the page and reading the incorrect information. So that's sometimes why you're warned away from Wikipedia. However, in the case of this paper for this class, I didn't feel the need to call her out and say, no, Wikipedia. It was fine because she's defining some basic terms. So while assimilation and colonialism are similar in that both require a person to change their habits, beliefs, or way of life to fit in with another culture, they differ in practice and enforcement. Cultural assimilation can be defined as the process by which a person or group changes their language or culture to resemble another. While Wikipedia defines colonialism as, quote, the policy of a nation seeking to extend or retain its authority over other people or territories, generally with the aim of economic dominance, end quote. Cultural assimilation is about fitting in, and colonialism is about power and control. So cultural assimilation is when you start at a new high school and you realize everyone there who's super cool. where's purple clogs? And you were like, I need a pair of purple clogs before I ever go back tomorrow. So then you spend the night frantically dashing around the mall trying to find the purple clog store. You're trying to assimilate to the habits and mores of your new culture. When we're talking about colonialism, we're talking about with your little brother when you're doing power plays and he's like, stay out of my room, it's my room. And then you bang the door open and you're like eating a carrot, super healthy snacker. Good job. You're eating a carrot and you're sort of like just stepping right in and you're tromping on those Legos on the floor. Ow, ow, ow. And you're just sort of like physically imposing yourself into a space where you're not wanted, but you're just trying to show off that you're bigger and you're stronger and your little brother can't stop you. So you're being a colonist. Knock it off. Be nicer. So continuing to look at this paper, now we are at the paragraph that comes after the one about colonialism and assimilation. What I'd like you to notice are the great use of a topic sentence here. Butler explains the sometimes painful effect of assimilation in historic crickets. It's a very general sentence that lets us know what the entire following paragraph is going to be about. So then we go into specifics from the story, and you'll notice that there are citations here using the last name of the author and then the page number from the anthology, from the textbook. Following the citation is the period, not before it. So then we can see here, Q is aware of how he doesn't fit in physically since he is, quote, the size of a woman in this country, end quote. And socially, as Americans speak so much more slowly than he does. So you can see how you've got some textual evidence that's been worked into that sentence there, worked in really nicely. The same thing happens throughout the whole paper and this paragraph. He works hard at the refinery where he's, quote, the best chemical engineer they've got, end quote. Then you see the citation followed by the closing period. So I will scroll now. Take your Dramamine. Here it comes. So then you can see here we have another topic sentence that moves us on to the second work. So arguably, cultural assimilation is sometimes necessary, but colonialism rarely, if ever, is. And then we move into the second work, Dead Men's Path, and we see analysis, textual evidence, citations. Okay? And then see how easily this writer has placed those little flags that are topic sentences, letting us know what to expect in the paragraph, letting us know where we are in terms of the development of that thesis statement. And at the end, we have a works cited. The student is listing both authors and stories, using the anthology as the name of the book, basically, and then also giving credit to the information that was found on Wikipedia. The student has used MLA citation style. If you don't really know how to do that kind of stuff, let me tell you, there are some citation generators online that can make your life so much easier. There is EasyBib, there is Citation Machine, there are others. So if you even just type MLA citations, you'll get thousands of hits. But if you go, let's say, to EasyBib, you can even just copy and paste the URL of any external site that you've used. Just type that and it will create the citation for you, and you can copy and paste it into your document and save yourself a big old headache. Okay. All right. Let me just show you quickly one other example of a student paper within D2L. So for the most part, students do submit like docx types of files, which is great because I can download them and then I can use track changes and comments to type in feedback that way. And then usually at the end, I attach some sort of grading sheet or rubric that gives you your score. But I do notice more and more that a lot of students, I think it's because you're asked often in D2L to submit RTF files, rich text format, so .rtf. A lot of students read or perceive that as PDF. I understand, RTF, PDF, I get it. So more and more I'm seeing that PDFs are submitted. And the thing about a PDF is that I can't interact with it easily as a grader. But what I can do, thanks to a recent, well, in the last few years, an update in D2L, is I can go in and I can give kind of these little comments that look like Post-it notes, sort of. And it's a more cumbersome process for me, to be honest, but I can totally do it. So if you were to submit a PDF, this is how your grading would look like to you. This is another good paper, by the way, and this one focuses only on Mrs. Dutta Writes a Letter. And so you can see here I say no need for italics, regular font is fine on the title. That's just a little feedback I gave. Here, good summary of techniques and Diva Karuni's approach. Down here I say fantastic thesis. So the thesis here is in Mrs. Dutta Writes a Letter, Chitra Divakaruni uses multiple methods of characterization to make Mrs. Dutta more real and believable. So the student is going to go through in the body paragraphs and look at the types, the ways that the character of Mrs. Dutta is conveyed to readers. And that would be an approach you could absolutely take in your own paper too. Probably a different character after you've looked at this paper. You don't take this student's ideas. So the first topic sentence tells us Diva Karuni uses limited physical descriptions to help build a visual of Mrs. Dutta. So then we go through all the places in the story where we kind of get the visuals, like physically, what does this character look like? And how does that communicate to us as readers, you know, who she is as a woman? Please notice too how well this student does with concluding sentences at the end of the body paragraphs. These physical descriptions help the reader visualize an older woman of Indian ethnicity. So that's a good summary. Topic sentence and concluding sentence echo each other. This student also is a master at the transitions, using transitions to start each new paragraph. So starting here, in addition to physical description, now we have the rest of the topic sentence. Speech is used to further build the characterization of Mrs. Dutta. So we have a transition and a topic sentence starting the next body paragraph. That's fantastic. And here I agree with this observation in my grading. You can see we have textual evidence as she exclaims in the line, comma, no, 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 clothes and all no work for the man of the house, I'll do it. So we have that quote taken. We have the citation after it. We have good analysis. Again, I'll just point out again, here's a great transition. Beyond speech and physical descriptions, the author also uses Mrs. Dutta's reaction to other characters to show further depth to the protagonist. Beautiful topic sentence, beautiful transition. We got specifics from the story in the middle, and then we have analysis and all that good stuff. And I ask her here if I can use this as a sample essay in the future because it's that good. So we go through the whole paper. She's looking at all the different ways we learn about the character of Mrs. Dutta in that story. The majority of the characterization is done through inner thought, for example. And then we have a conclusion at the end, and then we have the works cited. You'll notice that this student did not use any external sources. She just used the story and the book. So all she needs to cite there is the story itself and the textbook. So while you are welcome to look for, you know, stuff on the web or in a database that might help you enrich your discussion, and then in which case you should cite it at the end, you absolutely don't have to. So you could just analyze one story and then you would only cite one thing at the end in your works cited. But if you do two stories, please cite them both. If you do bring in information from other articles or places, please cite those as well. But I think you get an idea now if you kind of look at these examples. We're looking at a 3 to 5 page paper. It'll be double spaced, and we are asking you for sort of some pretty traditional structure in terms of how you put it all together. Introduction, last sentence is the thesis. Body paragraphs that start with transitions and topic sentences. In the middle, they give specifics and analysis. At the end of each body paragraph, a concluding sentence that sums up the main point of the paragraph. Open the next body paragraph with a transition and a topic sentence, and so on. So in a way, it's kind of formulaic, but also within those set parameters, you have the chance to unleash your creativity. I know it doesn't seem like it, but you do. A haiku is always 17 syllables, right? There are a million haikus, and I'm not being hyperbolic here. There are a million haikus that have been written, and every single one of them is different. And some of them are more successful than others. But how can that be when everyone's only using 17 syllables? How can it be? Because within very set parameters, you can, in fact, be distinctive and leave your own mark and do something wonderfully creative. So use these kind of parameters to make you feel secure and like you have some guidance here, but also realize that we've created kind of a template that gives you a place where you can just vomit all your beautiful self onto the page. All right, have fun writing.